Welcome to the webinar, everybody. I'm Alistair Cole, co-founder of Revenue Coach and your host for this session. Revenue Coach is a unique sales coaching platform that accelerates growth by empowering sellers to close deals quicker. We typically see 4 times higher win rates and 24% lower levels of stress for sellers using our products. This is the 3rd webinar in our series where we explore some of the current challenges in the workplace, especially for sales professionals. And today's topic is making better decisions through mindfulness. The human decision-making process is complicated and influenced by thoughts, emotions, environmental noise, and our own conscious and unconscious biases, and we get it wrong all the time. One way to improve our decision-making is to be more mindful during the process. And I'm delighted to be joined in this webinar today by Suzanne Lerger, practicing resilience and psychology coach and mindfulness teacher. Suzanne is a certified change management expert and founder of Bayoko Coaching. Welcome, Suzanne.
Welcome, Alistair. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here on the session, and we're all eager, I know, to hear from you as an expert about the power of mindfulness and how we can harness it to make decision-making a whole person or embodied exercise, going beyond the limitations of our thoughts and emotions. Before we get into that, I've got 10 rapid-fire questions for you. So that we can learn about Suzanne, the human being. And I'm just going to fire away now.
Cool.
What's the worst job you've ever had?
I think making sandwiches in a coffee shop in Perth while I was traveling. And I did it for a day and asked myself, why am I here? And that was it. So not particularly resilient, but I continued traveling and that was more fun.
Yeah, well, I can think of a few better places to be making sandwiches than Australia, but yeah. So that leads very nicely into my second question, which is, what is your ultimate sandwich as someone who's been on that side of the fence?
Oh, funny. You know what? I don't do sandwiches so much. So maybe that's why that wasn't the right job for me.
That put you off, that experience. That was it for sandwiches forever.
Maybe. I haven't done any therapy on it, actually.
Next question. What's one thing that you own that you should really throw out?
You know, I recently moved house, and that was following a move from London to Austria. So I think I've cleared out quite a bit over the last 2 years. But I'm sure others would argue there is stuff. I'm looking around. Currently, I think not so much, actually.
Okay. What's the scariest animal on the planet?
You know, I don't like spiders. I'm not so sure if they're so scary, but I also jump when I see a mouse. So pick the two. I don't know. I'll pick one of the two.
Yeah.
Let's say a mouse. How funny is that?
Okay, my daughters have a real phobia of spiders right now. And if you had a choice of fruits, would it be apples or oranges?
Oranges.
Okay. Have you ever asked anybody for their autograph?
I don't think so. I can't recall.
What do you think happens when we die?
Probably, our body, as we've seen yesterday, gets buried. Our soul lives on. Our spirit lives on.
Mm. What's your favorite movie?
A Star is Born is one of my favorites.
Okay.
Bradley Cooper, quite good
Yes.
in it.
I've not seen it. It's on my short list.
Yes, please,
I'm
Alistair.
sure it'll be excellent. What's your favorite smell?
Roses.
Wonderful. Last question. You get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
I think I do know. Kind of Blue by Miles Davis.
Nice. Love a bit of jazz. Fantastic. Thank you. Very insightful. Let's jump into one of your areas of expertise, mindfulness, and the reason that you're here today, which is very exciting. Can you start at the beginning and tell us what is mindfulness?
Happy to do so. And I thought, this is a channel particularly for salespeople, and you guys love figures. So I'll start with some figures. And I actually want to look at it more in the sense of mindlessness, because that's the state most of us are in most of the time. So here is a number for you. Only a third of us at any given time know what kind of emotion are we experiencing right there, right then in the moment. Now, this is not only men, by the way, but given that emotions are the biggest dial on the dashboard of human experience, it makes you wonder, what set of choices are we making? What kind of decisions are we making if we're not aware on how much emotions are actually impacting us, how they're impacting our brain performance, and the way we connect to our inner world, and hence the way the results we get in the outer world. So I always look at, what results are we getting? And what are the thoughts and emotions that are driving those results? So that's a quite interesting figure. And then there's another one for you guys. 50% of the time our mind is wandering, meaning we're not really paying attention, but the mind is wandering to some kind of neighborhood. Unfortunately, most of the time, some kind of scary, fearful, anxious of the future or stuck in the past. Now, coming back to your question, what is mindfulness then? Well, mindfulness is moving away, reacting from the place of unawareness of the lack of attention and our emotions we're carrying, and hence moving into a space where we were just more present to what's going on in our inner world, so that we can connect better with the outer world. And that outer world is, in the sales environment, your clients, your colleagues, your team. But the same applies for leadership, their team. So from a term, mindfulness, it's actually rather recent, and it was shaped by the grandfather of mindfulness, you can call it. His name is Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. So he's a medical doctor, and he was traveling as I was in Perth actually, and he was in India, and he got to know the meditation practice, and he was so intrigued by the benefits he personally experienced that he brought it back into the medical lab, and he studied, first of all, the experience or the aspect of mindfulness with people who experienced back pain. Okay. And then it moved on to studying the benefits of mindfulness for people with depression or anxiety, so mental states or inflictions. And, there couldn't be a more current or more pressing time to discuss that. Latest data shows us that 1 in 8 person has some kind of mental distress. And John Kabat-Zinn defined that term, and it's really two things, and that's why I'm so happy to be here. To be mindfulness means that you are aware and present at any moment of your day on what's going on with your attention, with your emotions, what's going on for you, so you can make better decisions and choices. But it gets informed by your meditation practice. So as I mentioned, lived in London, and seeing on the tube the little advertisement around mindful chef, as in some food delivery service. Great business, great idea. But that in itself doesn't buy you mindfulness. It is really informed by what we call a meditation practice. And then you sprinkle, as you train your mind in that process, you sprinkle these moments of more awareness, more presence into your day as you go through your day.
Yeah. Okay. And if we're able to listen to our inner self, get that emotional connection you talk about, and stop our minds wandering. You talked about that. That's that half of us, our minds wandering. If we're able to do that, what are the emotional and physical benefits of being mindful?
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, as I said, the history of studying these benefits in our Western scientific way, they go back mainly to the physical side of it. Yes, pain management, but then depression, anxiety, more the mental side. But it was also around blood pressure, which often is related to stressful situations, to aspects around the nervous system, to experiences of diabetes. So from a physical perspective and physical illness, there's mindfulness for cancer. There's a whole host of studies, and it's really fascinating. If you go and look for studies, they've exploded in the last years. And they've exploded also to what you just mentioned as well, Alistair, the benefits to the emotional experience and well-being of ourselves. And so it increases your self-awareness. Self-awareness, the beginning of understanding what am I experiencing, what are the emotions that are driving my actions, so that we can move away from acting out of fear or limitations or impatience, or to move into a space where we react much more from a place of curiosity and courageousness, and also compassion, actually, compassion for others. And that, of course, then feeds into, from your own emotional intelligence, into the intelligence of reading other people's emotion. And that's when, more meaningful connections can take place. Better decisions in the good of everyone involved can be made.
Well, that's a lofty ambition, and that sounds fantastic. Is mindfulness is it achievable for everybody? Is it right for everybody?
Is it right for everybody? Absolutely. If you want to enrich your experience, if you want to make better decisions and better choices in your life, if you want to be a happier person, and here's the funny thing, happiness in business has been well studied by now as well. It's not that success or happiness follows success. It's happiness that leads to success because you show up as the best version of yourself. So, yes, definitely having more mindful moments in your day will add huge value to your experience of your existence here, here on this planet, here in business, here in your family life, whatever you want to take. Is a state of being present and aware, mindful, available to all? Yes. I just want to put in a word of caution. If anybody on the call or anybody listening later is suffering from severe anxiety or depression, that's really a place where starting with a meditation mindfulness practice, I would consult a professional, I would consult a GP. So when you have these afflictions in your mind, to sit down and find and befriend your thoughts can be really challenging. So in that case, it's probably not for everyone, the practice of sitting down to meditate.
Okay. And is it difficult to be mindful? Is it a challenge?
So I hear. It is definitely, I guess, difficult to practice what this discipline is, an awareness practice. If you've never given yourself a moment of quiet or stillness where you observe your own thoughts and emotions, then you might experience what I hear a lot from my clients and executives. Well, you don't understand. My mind is super active. Everybody's mind is super active if it's not trained. That's what it does. And it's a little bit like a little puppy. They love running around doing their own thing. And they don't like to come back to, or maybe your kid's the same, Alistair, I don't know. They don't like to come back to the focus you want to have them be dedicated to. So there's also a study around actually an untrained mind is an unhappy mind. So it can be challenging to get into it. If you want to meditate and have never done it, I would recommend a couple of minutes a day. And like I mentioned earlier, be curious about what evolves and be compassionate with yourself. Really key.
Okay, so you touched on something really interesting there. You talked about taking time, and you talked about a couple of minutes. Say if I had a spare slot in my diary tomorrow, I had 15 minutes or half an hour. What practically should I do? Where should I go? Where should I sit? Is it on my own with others? What should I do in my head in order to take that first step towards trying to be mindful?
You know, a good first start is a kind of a conscious breathing, intelligent breathing break. Conscious breathing, which is the basis of any meditation practice, where you actually, first of all, shift your nervous system. So you move away from being on the accelerator. And if you can relate to that, if you're on a train, on a high-speed train, dashing through France, there's not much you see around you. Whilst if you slow down, then your environment becomes more tangible. You can make better, you can relate better to it. So slowing down and catching your breath, as the saying goes, definitely a good way to shift. So I always speak to my clients about 3 dimensions that are really key for guys and ladies in the corporate world. First, try to prepare yourself for the day. Before you open up your laptop, just sit there, make this conscious connection with your breath. How am I feeling today? What are the thoughts, the quality of the thoughts I'm carrying? If you start off being anxious or fearful about the day or impatient before you even got started, well, think about how that first email is going to fly out. So be really present before you get started. And then, like Alistair, like you said, if you do have 15 minutes dotted around, and I actually advise my clients to consciously plan them in.
Yeah.
This is where you could shift through, again, this conscious breathing practice. Stop yourself from picking up your phone, checking your WhatsApp messages, your Instagram feed, your social feeds. Remember or really cherish that moment of stillness. Connect with your breath. And maybe another way is consciously grabbing some water, really feeling the coldness of the water, sensing the cold glass in your hand. So we can also become really mindful by using our senses, or smelling on, I mentioned roses, smelling on a favorite smell you have, apart from the benefits that can have to your brain, but using your senses, feeling, hearing, seeing, that anchors you in the present moment as well.
Okay, you talked about that breathing exercise. Mm-hmm. Is that something you can share with us about how we could practically go about doing that?
Absolutely. And I can make it really easy and tangible for you. What I love about the breathing practice, and thank you for asking for that, Alistair, is it's personal, it's portable, and it's private. So even if you are sitting in a negotiation with your client, even if you're in a meeting where emotions are running high, or just you yourself in some shape of feeling that you shifting in a not optimal state, use your breath. And so this is how we do it. All you need to probably do is just sit yourself, position yourself in an upright way. Don't lean back into the chair, but sit up tall. And then just go about, you can keep your mouth shut, about inhaling through your nostrils and imagine you can drop the air all the way down into your abdomen. And it starts to fill up so that the navel button kind of pushes into your shirt or blouse or trousers or skirt, whatever you're wearing. And then when you exhale, and this is the important part, really exhale in a way that you're pulling that navel button towards your spine. So you're extending your exhale a little. When you do any of this, it's really key that you don't strain your breath, meaning don't come out like, which then, of course, doesn't make it private, but at the same time doesn't make it effective. It can do the opposite. It throws you into anxiety. So really work with just the kind of cadence, the quality of your own breath, but try to extend your exhale a little longer. That helps us shift the nervous system. That helps us get into a zone where we're calmer, where we have more perspective. And like I just mentioned with regards to the high-speed train, where we can connect with what is happening around us in a more meaningful way. The more we're on the accelerator, the more what we are noticing around us gets somewhat washed out. And hence again, what is the quality of decisions we make if we can't even connect with what's really happening around us in a meaningful way? So that is a very simple way to shift your nervous system, improve your brain performance, and hence, of course, improve the decisions you're making because you're becoming more aware of what's really happening for you. Did you just try it, Alistair?
That's. I'm listening very intently and making notes to try it again a little bit later. But that's really great. Some practical advice about how to actually just take a moment out and starting with the breathing. So I'd like to think that of myself as a little bit mindful, but that is definitely going to help take things to the next level. So thank you.
You're most welcome.
And then in terms of, decision making, I mean, it sounds like being more mindful generally will allow things to slow down and therefore make better decisions. But have you got any feedback on how the direct link between making decisions and being mindful? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not just my own personal experience as I've been practicing this for kind of a long time, but you might even know of some of the real kind of trendsetters in the space, included Steve Jobs, for example, who was a meditator. Yeah. And he did it particularly also to improve his creativity and his level of innovation. And there's other real kind of high-profile CEOs these days who stepping forward saying they have a meditation practice and a mindfulness practice during their day. And the benefits that we can see, but, this is now just the evidence. In the end, it's something you need to experience. You need to do. That's why it's called a practice. It's a little bit like learning to play the piano. You can't just do it by staring at the notes and hammering down some of the keys. There's something that needs to be practiced and then you'll get better. And so when it comes to decision making in particular, it is the two components I've started to mention in the beginning. It's the quality of attention. It's the awareness of our own emotions, which naturally drives the quality of decisions we make. And then on top of it, it's this, like you mentioned in the introduction, this connection with our embodied experience, which relates to our intuition, our somatic intelligence. And in that way, decision-making processes are improved. And that can also be seen even in the brain, in the parts of the brain that relate to the emotional development of us humans. So long explanation, science is right behind it, but it's an embodied practice. I can just say, guys, try it. There's so many great apps out there that can support you in your journey. Just going to mention a couple. Headspace. Yes. I really like it a lot. I like Andy, who has a background from a Buddhist monastery, and it comes through because his teachings are very, very thorough. Calm is a really popular one. 10% Happier is a great one. So there's tons. If you want to go back to the grandfather of mindfulness, who I mentioned earlier, yeah. Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, you find tons of his meditation practices on YouTube. he actually guided meditation practices in the pandemic in a global setting for a virtual group for a number of days. So a great effort from his side. So there's plenty out there. If you have a very specific question, a very particular kind of requirement, feel free to reach out. I think, Alistair, you're going to share details. I'm happy to point you in the right direction for you. I would invite everybody listening to the webinar, say, great first start, and then try to find some support so that you can get into the practice and become more mindful in your life.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And one of the other questions I had was around, should I also be practicing meditation, and how does that differ from being mindful, and should I be doing it?
Yeah, like meditation is the practice and discipline that informs your mindfulness over the course of the day. So there is a formal practice, which is the sitting, to meditating, and mindfulness practice as a meditation practice is based on an old tradition. As I said, Kabat-Zinn traveled India, which is called Vipassana, is a particular way of meditating. It has nothing to do with any particular belief system, but it's based on a certain kind of technical establishment of developing that state of more ease and evenness. And there's many other forms of meditation. You know, you can meditate on sound, you can meditate on a flame, and that's all not mindfulness meditation. That's not how he kind of defined meditation. But when you want to become more mindful in life, yes, you will, in terms of the grandfather, you will have to sit down and meditate every now and then to inform this quality of awareness and the capacity to pay attention in a purposeful way in the present moment. And that's what we then feed into the day.
Wonderful. Well, we're approaching the end of our time. It's been really insightful. It makes perfect sense to me that taking time out to slow down. I loved your train analogy, that if I can slow down and be in touch with how I'm feeling and the business world, naturally my decision making should improve. And it really chimed with me when you talked about happiness leading to success, because I'm turning up as the best version of myself rather than the other way around, chasing success and hoping that will make me happy. So that really struck a chord, and I'm going to this afternoon practice your breathing exercise because I think, even in the middle of a difficult meeting or in the middle of a difficult decision-making process, I can see that might help me physically slow down. So that was a really great practical tips. So, please, anybody on the call, get in touch with Suzanne via LinkedIn and Bayoko Coaching if you'd like to learn more about her work, or if you or others need support in that area. And thank you very much for joining us, Suzanne. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation, Alistair. Thank you.
Really insightful. It's great. And if you'd like to know more about Revenue Coach or our products, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. But really, it's just it leaves me to say again, thank you to Suzanne for joining us. Thank you to Bayoko Coaching, and thanks for everybody for attending. So I will say goodbye.
Have a good week. Bye, Alistair.
Bye, Suzanne.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.